Doctors of Reddit, what is the weirdest thing a patient wouldn't admit? I can literally smell the smoke on your clothes and breath, see the nicotine stains on your fingers, and you're trying to tell me you quit smoking 10 years ago. During my peds rotation, parents would often say I don't smoke in front of the kids, but when your kid's hair smells like smoke. Edit 1. If you go near to listen to a kid's heartbeat, look in their ear, or literally go near a kid as a doctor. Edit 2. If you smoke anywhere in the home, even if in another room, while they are in another room, you are still potentially exposing your kids to secondhand smoke. This increases their risk for diseases such as asthma. Edit 3. As Dr. House says, everyone lies, so I take everything any patient/parent tells me with a grain of salt.
AM vet student. Many clients like to say I don't overfeed my dog/cat, that's just their normal size. When their pet looks like a watermelon. I'm a vet assistant and one of our clients wouldn't admit his dog got into his marijuana stash. He didn't want to admit it because his wife was totally against him having it, and he ended up buying some anyway and kept it a secret from her. Well, it was a secret up until the dog got into it, smiling face with open mouth and cold sweat. He finally admitted it and his wife was pissed. Dog ended up totally fine though, he was just super out of it. Edit, I guess I should have been more specific. His stash was hash oil and his pup was a 5-pound min pin. Sorry for the confusion, guys.
Once had a woman come in for a possible yeast infection. On exam she had a glass bottle stuck in her vaginal filled with urine. Totally wouldn't admit it was hers, or explain how it got there, even after we removed it. Just kept saying I think this is all a joke, and you put it up there. Yeah. She was totally trying to cheat a drug test. Definitely. The bottle had an overly complicated apparatus which allowed her to discreetly trigger the urine to come out, which made it all the more weird. She pretended we hadn't just pulled CIA tech out of her cooch.
When was their last meal? They think they can fool their pet scan, end up losing money, time, and over-irradiated. I feel your frustration to my soul. Sir, have you eaten this morning? Nope. Not since before midnight. Meanwhile I'm looking at a sliver of contracted gallbladder. Are you sure? Because I would hate for this test to come back incorrect and you end up meeting with a surgeon when you don't need to. I might have had a couple of waffles and eggs. I'm a gastroenterologist. I do upper endoscopies all the time. Somehow, there are people out there who think they can get away lying about whether they've eaten since midnight, before a procedure that will literally stick a camera into their stomach. Now, some people have gastroparesis and old food residue will be present in the stomach, but I've literally seen fresh, chewed but identifiable bacon and eggs hanging out in the stomach. In addition to probably making it a lot harder to diagnose whatever we were doing the endoscopy for, it's also a huge risk for aspiration events, which can be lethal.
Had an elderly lady from a nursing home come in super altered. She would wake up briefly to answer questions, but then would be out like a light seconds later. Usually in this case we assume it's from infection, stroke, etc., but we still ask about drug use, legal and illicit, since it can cause that kind of thing. Lady denied several times she didn't take anything other than prescribed meds. Finally, as we're about to intubate her, put her on a ventilator. Since she was getting worse, we cut off her bra, and out pops a little baggie with some white powder and a baby straw. We gave her some Narcan, and she gasps herself awake. Even after that still took her a long time, before she said, well, maybe I did take some drugs from a friend. Since then I've trusted no one when it comes to denying drug use. Edit, just to clarify, I'm not saying I think everyone is a drug addict, I'm just saying, if you come in acting super out of it, you're probably going to get Narcan, just to cover all the bases. Also, I'm aware that light seconds are not a measure of time. I use the phrase out like a light followed by the word seconds. Just confusingly worded, I guess. Everybody lies shit, at least she admitted it after the Narcan. I'd say 90% of the patients I saw revived with Narcan and the year still denied taking opiates.
On my surgery rotation as a med student, warning, this is gross as fuck. Had a patient recovering from having parts of their bowel removed. As part of the recovery, their intestines weren't completely connected to let them heal better, so the intestines were connected to a little hole in the skin with a bag attached for the poop to go into, known as a colostomy bag. For reference, this woman was in her late 60s and over 230 pounds. I had to round on her every day. And every single day I'd walk into her laying in bed absolutely covered in toxic gasoline-smelling diarrhea. She also had C. diff, a nasty bacteria that anyone in the hospital can identify by smell. And she would flirt with the residents and make casual conversation while we would clean the shit off of her and fix her ostomy bag. One day we walked up to the room and the chief resident walked in the room, immediately walked back out and closed the door behind him. Looked up to all of us following him and went, "She's fingering herself covered in shit." I really wish I was making this up. So yes, she never admitted it, but obviously she was fucking tearing at all the tape covering her ostomy all night until she broke the seal and could get herself covered in shit again to get attention from the doctors. Edit, I'll answer some questions here. 1. At what hospitals do doctors have to deal with ostomies? Shitty ones. 2. What happened to the patient? No idea. After having her for around 2 weeks my rotation ended and I was relieved of my duty. 3. I can't think of any more poop puns. 4. I did not witness the fingering, but I believe the exact term that was used was fucking flicking her bean. 5. She was not mentally disabled in any way and was completely alert and oriented. She wanted attention from the doctors. One resident in particular was her favorite, and figured out how to get it. 6. Why didn't the nurses deal with it? I have no idea. I was a brand new third-year student on my first rotation and just figured that's the way things were. After the first week the attending was even coming to the room to secure the ostomy since it kept coming undone. To know where this is coming from, that people are saying only nurses deal with ostomies.
Not a doctor, but many years ago was working as an assistant to an occupational therapist. We got a call out to help mobilize a woman who had been morbidly obese and was told to lose weight. We learned from the daughter she had gained weight, but her mother would refuse to come clean on what she was eating. All the daughter knew was that her mother may have been eating deep fried food due to the vast amounts of cooking oil she found in the pantry. When we arrived, she had gained an extra 6 kilos, but insisted she had lost weight. She did not look it. Before we began mobilizing her and check her living room for trip hazards, she also had horrendous knees. We took a look at the pantry. Olive oil, peanut oil, sesame oil, any kind of common cooking oil you can find off a supermarket shelf. She had it. A vast stockpile of oil. We asked what she was frying with the oil. She insisted that she wasn't frying anything, and that she was eating healthy, since the oils she used were healthy. We had to explain to her that oils are still fatty, and will still contribute to weight gain. After a bit of poking around the pantry, I noticed that for the amount of oil she had very little in food that could be traditionally fried. She also had little in other foodstuffs that could explain the obesity. I brought it up with the therapist and the therapist then demanded the truth. We couldn't provide complete healthcare until we knew everything. She admitted that she thought healthy oils would help her lose weight and suppress the appetite, so she had taken to drinking the bottles of oil whenever she got hungry. Needless to say, we disposed of most of the bottle of oil and set her up for a home visit with a dietitian. What the fuck? How does one drink bottles of oil without vomiting/feeling ill from all the fat? B. Think that is remotely healthy? Just how?
Not a DR. But worked in a hospital for a long time. Had a PT come in that had OD on heroin. Was able to get him set on that front, however he had necrotizing fasciitis in his pectoral from injecting there. He was septic and honestly a bit of an asshole. He kept trying to tell us the reason he was there was because of a motorcycle accident. We all knew, but he was in absolute denial. He eventually heals up and transfers out, after a couple months. He came back about 6 months later to say thank you to all of us and to apologize for all the lies and assholish behavior. Seems it was enough to get him out of that life and onto a new one. I think about him now and then and hope he stayed clean. Not all that uncommon with people who have heroin addictions, or most any substance use concern, to deny it's why they're in the ed. Often then OD is the turning point for many. but the initial visit can still harbor a lot of shame and ultimately denial before some work it out over the next few weeks and months. Staying sober without proper support can be incredibly difficult, however, so I hope he has found that support.
I volunteer at an prisoner shoved a ballpoint pen up his urethra to get out of being stabbed. Ike insisted he had no idea how it got there. We spent hours deliberating how to get it out, and he just reaches down, still in his handcuffs, and pulls it out himself. Edit. You can't get stabbed if you're not in the prison, and any sort of self-harm will land you on suicide watch, which is brutal as well. Weird sex stuff though, no problem. Prison nurse here. We see this frequently. Saw one guy who actually got stabbed, and he was so oddly relaxed about the whole thing. Making jokes, normal BP, heart rate only like 80. Prison must be insane. Thank you for watching this fantastic video. Please tap one of the 4 videos on the screen for another amazing AskReddit video.